This is the Cubs POSTCAST, your instant game reaction for the Chicago Cubs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
The magic number is 1 for the Chicago Cubs. Joe George here on the Locked On Cubs postcast as the Cubs get the 4-1 win over the Pittsburgh Pirates. Cade Horton outduels Paul Skenes. Michael Busch, Nico Hoerner both have 3-hit games in this one. Michael Busch heating up in a big way. Nico Hoerner chasing down the National League batting title at this point in this season. We'll talk about the men left on base, the strikeouts in this game. So it wasn't all perfect, but for the most part, this was a good game for the Cubs. And again, the magic number is down to 1. A couple people in the chat asking where I've been. We've been busy. We got various post-game shows. We'll be trying to be more regular again for the rest of the season. Thank you guys for hanging out here in the chat. Your comments and questions are definitely welcome. Let's start with Cade Horton in this one. We'll get to our player of the game here in a little bit. But Cade Horton was really good again in this one. He continues to, exceed expectations for me. And the expectations were high for Cade Horton. Like when he was brought up, it was like, okay, what can this kid do eventually for the Cubs? But just another day where he goes out there. He's got 5 innings pitched, 3 hits, 6 strikeouts. They're all over. Like he's all over the Pirates again. Just attack constantly. I love his approach and what it's been. Him and Nico Hoerner have been the best 2 players on the Cubs since the All-Star break. And it's not particularly close. What he's done at this point, I have to assume he's locked up the player of the rookie of the year in the National League. It's definitely very well deserved because every time he comes up in this rotation, he just makes an impact start. I think it's a great question. They asked it on the broadcast, like, is Cade Horton getting the ball in game 1 of a 3-game wildcard series? I think it depends on matchups, right? I think it does depend on if you're facing a lefty-heavy team. But if it's not, Cade deserves the ball, in my opinion. And it's nothing against Shota Imanaga. It's nothing against Matthew Boyd. But at this point, he deserves to get the ball for game 1. I'm not sure if Craig Counsell will do that. We've seen he's obviously hesitant to play, rookies and things like that. Kelvin Alcantara not in right field tonight is a great example of that with Willie Castro out there. But he just consistently goes out there and puts on these performances that are really impressive every single time. And they're always a little different. It's not the strikeout pitch doesn't always work for him. And I think that's what I like the most about watching Cade Horton pitch for the Cubs is that he isn't reliant on striking out 10 guys to have a successful start. He's able to do it in a bunch of different ways. And whether it's ground balls, fly balls, strikeouts, he's just going out there and finding a way to get it done. So just another great performance for him. But now it's time to get to our Locked On Player of the Game.
This is the Locked On Player of the Game.
I've a lot of options. Cade Horton's a good option for this for the Locked On Player of the Game. Nico Hoerner's a great option for this, going 3 for 5. But I'm going to go with Michael Busch. A home run in the first inning there, and then, nearly hit out of the ballpark. You hit it as close to getting out of the ballpark as humanly possible, and then 2 doubles in this game. Michael Busch getting hot is what the Cubs need. Obviously, the stuff with Kyle Tucker has not been great. The reports that the pain hasn't really subsided, that they're not, he's obviously didn't come off the injury list like he could have today. Doesn't really feel like we're close to a Kyle Tucker return, which I know some people are okay with, but he was getting hot before he injured this calf. And with Seiya Suzuki being ill, he's back in the batting cages. You've needed guys to step up and just start playing better. And Michael Busch was at the top of that list. And if Michael Busch can start to just be more consistent like he's been the last couple days, it changes the dynamic of the lineup for the Cubs to have that power at the top. And we've discussed this a bunch on these shows. I would rather have Nico Hoerner leading off, but frankly, Busch and Nico 1-2 at this moment is a great combo. So Michael Busch for me today is the Locked On Player of the Game, but you can't ignore what Nico Hoerner is doing. Trey Turner's on the injured list for the Phillies, hitting 305 on the season. Nico Hoerner now has his batting average up to 301 with 10, 11 games left to go at this point in the season. He's got a real shot to get the batting title in the National League this year, to hit above 300. He's now one of 2 players, I think, in the National League. It might honestly be in all of baseball at this point, but definitely in the National League. Nico is just, there's a reason why he's one of the guys that we all love watching just day in and day out. He, whether it's getting on himself or getting guys home when there was men on base, which again was a struggle for the Cubs tonight, obviously. But those two guys having 6 hits at the top of your lineup just really does damage in a way that it pushed Paul Skenes out early. I mean, they had a guy up in the bullpen in the first inning when it was 2-0 and the bases were loaded. They obviously didn't use him right away, but 60 pitches very quickly, the shortest outing of the season for Paul Skenes. And that's where, even though the Cubs didn't score a lot of runs today and they had a lot of opportunities and they had a lot of strikeouts, I do want to take a positive out of this, that they've done very well against the best young pitcher in baseball in Paul Skenes. Cade Horton's pushing that a little bit, to be honest. Like, he's not Paul Skenes yet, but the way he's pitching in the moment, he is. But Paul Skenes has been dominating people for, 2 seasons now at this point. And the Cubs have this game in which they pushed him out early, his shortest start of the season. And this season, they have the first 3 home run game that Paul Skenes ever had. Giving up 3 homers in a game was done by the Chicago Cubs. Something they've struggled with this year, getting guys on base, not just getting guys home, but getting guys on base, against these elite level pitchers is not something that they've done well with this entire season. We all know it. We've all seen it all year. So being able to push out Skenes in the way they did and having him end up with the line score today of 3 2/3, 7 hits, 3 earned runs. Yeah, he got his 6 strikeouts, but just really was not at his best, and that's because of what the Cubs were doing. So all that stuff is very, very good for the Cubs today. One more thing about the really good stuff. We'll talk about the bad from the game and the magic number being number 1, plus your questions and comments after the break. I know we just talked about Kyle Tucker and Suzuki and all the guys who have been impressive. Just an observation from the last couple of games, and including tonight, I am so impressed and so excited about the future of Moises Ballesteros. He is so comfortable at the plate, and we're seeing him do a little bit of everything, whether it's a triple the other day, a couple hits today, just constantly going up there and having really good professional at-bats. And I don't want to think too far into the future, but he doesn't catch, and he's playing at this point when he's been up with the Cubs to where he has to be on your everyday roster, your everyday lineup next season. It does complicate things for the Cubs if they want to chase down Kyle Tucker this offseason. Of what do you do with Seiya Suzuki? But I'm just so impressed with him. And I saw someone mention him in the chat here about being on the playoff roster. Yeah, absolutely. He needs to, go out there and be on the roster. Honestly, Mark says Mo is good at bats. Like, he's awesome. He's really, really impressive at the plate, and just I'm really, really curious how the Cubs will utilize him, specifically if Seiya Suzuki comes back from his illness and doesn't put it together. If he doesn't, when you look at the best lineup to win a playoff series, I don't think it includes Seiya Suzuki. The way Ballesteros is playing right now, like, I want to see him out there as much as possible for the Cubs. So just another good thing that of the young guys that have come up this year, Ballesteros, Matt Shaw, Cade Horton, they're checking those boxes for sure when you do think about the future of the Cubs. But the future is next season, and the future is now, because I think all 3 of those guys will be a factor for the Cubs in the postseason this year, or they should be, because we know Matt Shaw and Cade Horton will be. But I think Moises Ballesteros, to me, he just swings the bat well enough to where he should be. He should be a part of it. Goro says here in the chat, we are starting 3 rookies in the playoffs. I would hope so. I hope that we will see it. Mark says, but Craig Counsell put Seiya in even when he's cold. Yeah, I mean, we probably know what's going to happen, but it doesn't mean I'm not going to, as much as I can, throw my sports tantrum as I can, because Moises Ballesteros is just, he's impressive at the plate. It's not elite yet, but it shows the elite skills just when he's at the plate. So good day for him, a multi-hit game as well. All right, we'll take our break. We'll talk about the men left on base, the strikeouts, and the magic number being down to 1, plus your questions, more of them, and your comments as well here in the live chat on YouTube. That's all coming up next year on the Locked on Cubs postcast. You've probably seen a million ads for hair growth products and thought, sure, like that actually works. There are so many products out there, it's hard to know which ones are actually going to do anything. That's why you should give Nutrafol a closer look. Nutrafol is the #1 dermatologist recommended hair growth supplement brand, trusted by over 1.5 million people. And it's not just hype. This is a supplement clinically tested that targets the root causes of thinning and shedding with a proactive approach. See thicker, stronger hair with less shedding in just 3 to 6 months with Nutrafol. For a limited time, Nutrafol is offering Locked On MLB listeners $10 off your first month's subscriptions and free shipping when you go to Nutrafol.com and enter the promo code LOCKEDONMLB. That's Nutrafol.com. Promo code LOCKEDONMLB. Today's show is also brought to you by Gametime. There's nothing like catching a baseball game live. Not a lot of them left until the postseason, at least. The energy, the crowd, the chance to see your team in person, but actually getting tickets, that's the tough part. Queues, login screens, surprise fees, it takes all the fun out of it. That's why I use Gametime, the app that gives the advantage back to fans. Gametime is fast and easy and backed by the Gametime guarantee. You'll always get 100% authentic tickets delivered on time and at the best price. Plus, all the fees are included, so the price you pay is the price you see is the price you pay. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go download Gametime today.
This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet.
All right, Mike asks here in the chat, Joe, how far do you think the Cubs can go in the playoffs? That is a great question. Look, the playoffs they're wild, right? Like we've seen wild card teams go to the World Series, win the World Series in the past. So like being in this version of the wild card series is definitely not a detriment. But because they're likely not going to catch the Milwaukee Brewers, it is an extreme challenge. It's a 3-game series. You lose your first game. If it's at home, it will be at home against the Padres. It's a tough hill to climb. You got to win the next 2 games. So I'd like to think the Cubs can go pretty far. I do think they have the pieces, but it's been a long season, and we've seen the good and the bad version of the Cubs. But I think with Imanaga, Horton, and I think Matthew Boyd still, even though I do feel like he's slowing down a little bit, that gives you enough. I really think what we saw tonight with 7, 8, 9, not maybe in this particular order, but Kittredge, Thielbar, and Keller is your 7, 8, 9 in the playoffs. I think that feels confident to be. You deserve to be confident in that in the playoffs. So I think you've got the pieces in terms of the pitching to get there. You know, if Cade Horton gets you 6, or Border Imanaga, and hand it off to those 3 guys, specifically once you're past the wild card series and there's more days off, I think you can be in a really good position to do so. I also don't think the National League is like particularly scary this year. The Phillies are the best team, and they're missing, in my opinion, the best team if they had Wheeler. Turner's been out for a while. Like they're struggling. The Dodgers are missing a ton of players this year. Their pitching hasn't always been, at its best this season. And then you have the Brewers, of course. I think the Cubs could get to at least the NLCS. And I'm trying not to be a homer, but like they beat the Brewers in the season series at different points in the year when the Cubs and the Brewers were playing good baseball. They won the season series against them. If you can get past the Padres, I think you've got a shot to take down the Brewers in 7 games. And honestly, I think they could go past that as well. The real question is ultimately going to come down to Tucker, to Suzuki, and Michael Busch, of what those guys are going to do. PCA, I think, does obviously factor in, and we've seen some good stuff. The 414-foot home run from him yesterday, the RBI single early in the game today. Like there are things that are showing that the Cubs can go far in the postseason. It's just can you find a way to put it all together at once? Because they've been struggling to do that for so long. Nights like tonight give you a little bit of both of that feeling, right? Like you score 4 runs, you win. You have a ton of hits in the game, but you leave 12 men on base. You strike out more than 10 times this year. I was shocked when they said at the end of the game there that the Cubs now have a 17-16 record on the season when they strike out 10 or more times. That's the best in baseball That stuns me, that because you don't think it's going to be that good. They're above 500 when they strike out 10 or more times is crazy, honestly. So, I think the Cubs can go far, but it's just, will the pieces be put together when it matters most? And we're going to see. The thing about the Cubs is the only guys who are going to be in your everyday lineup with like legitimate playoff experience are pretty much Tucker, Hap, I guess. And that's pretty much it, right? Like you're not really going to be out there seeing guys. The only pitcher with real playoff experience is going to be Matthew Boyd. Like you're not, at least from the starters, like you're not going to see, I guess, Tyon too. So it's going to be, I don't know, it's going to be fascinating. And it comes down to this. Tomorrow, magic number is down to 1. And the Cubs are going to make the playoffs officially for the first time since 2020. It's been a long season in a lot of ways. There's been some really high ups and some really lows, some really low lows. But it's just what this team, the fact that they're going to be back in the postseason, and we'll talk more about it tomorrow, after it's official and they clinch this thing for real. But it just feels good that like it's finally going to happen again to see the Chicago Cubs back in the playoffs. I forgot about Dansby Swanson. Great catch, Jeremy, in the chat. I forgot about Dansby. Great catch for me. Thank you. So we'll see. I mean, like I'm glad it's finally here that the Cubs are back in the postseason. It hasn't been the best since 2018, really, I would say, for the Cubs. So glad that this has finally happened. They're going to be back in the postseason. Good win tonight for the Cubs, even with a lot of guys left on base and a lot of strikeouts. So that stuff, will it work in the playoffs? Probably not. But you did a very good job against Paul Skenes. So overall, a good win for the Cubs, and the magic number again is officially down to 1. So thanks for watching. Remember, hit that subscribe button right here on YouTube Plus, wherever you get your podcast, Apple and Spotify. Let's see. One more question, because this is a good question. I like this question, Christian. If we clinch the top wildcard spot, would you consider resting starters for the last week? No, I wouldn't. I would set up your rotation for what you want. If you look at the Padres and your first round playoff matchup, I would set your playoff rotation, make sure that that's on schedule. That's more important at that point, unless you chase down the Brewers. Feels unlikely. But you just got to focus on, getting the rotation set up. I wouldn't rest too much of it. Mainly if you guys that are starting to get hot, like Michael Busch, got to play them at this point. I'm not really in favor of wasting, guys getting hot in the moment. So, all right, that will wrap it up then. So thank you guys all for watching. Be back with you tomorrow for the season series wrap up, and hopefully a celebration of the Cubs being officially in the playoffs in 2025. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Have a good one.